Okay. Good morning, everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So, today's topic is introduction to software construction. So, I will explain to you and we'll discuss about the activities inside software constructions and where does where software construction sit in the software engineering software development life cycle. So this is the introductory course that will provide you with the foundation for the software construction, so that you understand what are activities included in the software construction phase. Yeah. Okay. Please turn off your laptop and focus on this presentation. So today I will explain to you the software construction phase, and you have to identify. Yeah, you have to be able to identify activities in construction. So what are the activities? And then so that if you are involved in a software project or software development team, you have idea what to do during the software construction phase. Yeah. And then third, I will explain to you the prerequisites and quality impact. Yeah. So what are the prerequisites? So what should be done before commencing the software construction phase, and if you do the process in the software construction phase, it will determine the quality of your working software or your end result. And then last, I will describe the modern construction practices where right now AI, the artificial intelligence, is helping us in many tasks, including software engineering tasks. Yeah. So in software construction phase, we can utilize AI to help us to boost our productivity, so that I know that there are so many activities in software construction, and AI will can help us to do to reduce the burden of software construction activities. Next, so this is the outline of the presentation. I will talk about the concept, the concept of software constructions and the scope. So because in software engineering, in software development lifecycle, we have several phases. Yeah. For example, the first one is after the project inception, maybe we have a software requirement phase, and then after software requirement phase, we have software design phase, and then software construction, and then software testing, software deployment, and so on. So we have this series of activities that we have to do, in our complete software development life cycle. So you have to understand where the software construction sits in this life cycle, and then the importance of software construction. Yeah. So actually, software construction is the most important phase in software engineering life cycle, in software development life cycle, because this is the only phase where the implementation is happening, and this is where we are actually build our software. Next is the goals. So what are the goals of software construction, the prerequisites, the activities, and how to make sure that you perform the activities with quality assurance in mind, and then the tools that you need to prepare in the software construction phase. Last, we'll talk about the modern software constructions. Okay, moving on to the next slide. So, what is software construction? So, by definition, here I can tell you several keywords, several keywords that you need to remember if you want to remember the definition of software construction. So, it's one of the software engineering activity, So, it's the software engineering activity, and this one transforming software design. So, meaning that the result from the software design phase, you transform the software design into executable software. Executable software meaning you have to produce working code, working software through coding, debugging, and unit testing. So, coding and debugging cannot be separated. Coding and debugging is one activity actually, because you can do coding only and not doing debugging. It's almost impossible. You always face finding bugs while you are writing your code. You find bugs, and then you have to correct it immediately by doing debugging to know what's the reason for the bug, what's the cause of the defects. And also unit testing. So unit testing is the responsibility of developers, not the QA. So we have a quality assurance developer, we have QA team, and unit testing is not part of their responsibility. Unit testing is the responsibility of developer. So even though it has a word testing in this definition, unit testing is included in software construction phase, not in the software testing phase. So you have to make sure that these three activities, are properly done in your software construction project. Okay, so these are the simplest definition that I can find of, and then this is the additional, explanation that software construction is the only phase where the software system is actually built. So the other phases, I think, the end result, the end product, the end product is not working software, but for example, in software requirement, maybe the end result is software requirement documents. In architectural design, the result is the architectural design documents. So you have to make sure that the result of software construction is working software. However, even though the definition only contains coding, debugging, and unit testing, but actually there are other activities. There are other activities that are included in the software construction phase. So this is we dissect the definition one by one. First, it's a software engineering discipline. One of the phase or one of the activity in software engineering, and it's a process of creating something which is software, and includes not only coding, debugging and unit testing, but we have other activities. And in modern software development lifecycle, we rarely use waterfall model, the linear or the sequential model, but we usually use iterative model like agile methodology, and we use Scrum methodology, which is the iterative model. And it's difficult to only focus on software construction because having a perfect requirement document, it's almost impossible in business software. So we still need a little requirement activity here And we are doing also planning and analysis activities. We're also doing a detailed design. So a detailed design meaning it's not a high level design, but it's a low level design. High level design has been done in the software architectural phase, yeah. In the analysis phase, you already designed the big component, the high level components. You already know what are the components that we will build in this project. But in this software construction phase, maybe the detailed design of a specific component, and this is not the responsibility of software architect or system analyst, yeah. This is the responsibility of developer. So as a developer, you have to know design principles, good design principles, not only coding but design principles, because you will be doing this detailed design. And then a heavy coding and debugging, right now we can use AI to help us reduce the burden in these activities. And last is testing and integration. And we can also rely on AI right now to improve our productivity in creating testing and integration. So yeah, this one you have to make sure that you have to understand that software construction is not only coding, debugging, and unit testing, but there's still other activities, yeah, other activities that needs to be performed inside the software construction phase. So these are the key activities in software construction. First is detailed design refinement. So you clarify and adjust design at the implementation level, and then you do coding, meaning that you translate the design to source code, and then you do debugging to identify and fix the implementation defect, and you have to do unit testing to verify the individual components working correctly. And last is code integration by combining components into a working system. So these are key activities, but remember, we still have other activities that we need to do, yeah. So the important characteristic of the software construction phase is it's the only phase that produce executable software, and then most defects will be introduced in this phase, yeah. Defects mean bugs, yeah, errors will be introduced in this phase. So it's good to have a set of unit testing in your project so that you can detect this defect earlier, yeah, because introducing bugs and detect the bugs later on the project will cost you more, cost you time and cost you money. So you have to make sure that you can detect defects earlier in the software development life cycle. Next, the code quality. Yeah, so the quality of your working software, one of the intrinsic or one of the internal characteristic of the software quality is code quality. This code quality will not impact your end user, your customer directly, but it will impact your productivity as a developer. Yeah. For example, if a customer wants you to add new features or to change some existing features, you deliver it slower, yeah, then that's a problem of your productivity. So the maintainability is affected because of the code quality is not good. Yeah, so you have to make sure that code quality will strongly affect maintainability and reliability. Maintainability means your code is easy to maintain, easy to extend. Yeah. Reliability means your software is fault tolerant. Yeah, can handle many alternative paths, can handle exception paths. So you have to make sure that while implementing your software, writing your code, you have to be defensive enough to make sure that you won't introduce errors in your programs. Next, it requires discipline, standards, and proper tools. So you as a developer, you should possess discipline, and the team should follow standards and also should use proper tools. So maybe you as a project manager, as the team leader, you have to define the development standards, and you have to define also the proper tools. So you won't let your developer use their own standard. Yeah, for example, you have one team, and in this one team you have, for example, 5 developers, and you let your developers to use their own standard, to use their own tools. You will end up with software that is not consistent. Yeah, and it's difficult to maintain later on. So if I visualize the scope of software construction, so this is for you to visualize the scope, yeah, easier. So the box, yeah, so all the activities are put inside the rounded corner rectangle. Here, the one that I make it bolder, this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yeah, 6 activities. These are the main activities inside the software construction phase, and we still have some requirement development here, and we can still do some software architecture design. Maybe we have to revisit after doing coding and debugging, doing testing or integration testing, and then we found out that the architecture needs to be adjusted. Yeah, we need to adjust the architecture. We can do part of software architecture also, and then we have corrective maintenance here, and then we have a system testing, just small part of it. But majority we will be doing detailed design, construction planning. Construction planning is inside the software construction. And then coding and debugging, unit testing, integration, and integration testing. Yeah. So here are the activities that you need to do inside the software construction phase. Okay, if we take a look at the different perspective using waterfall model, the construction will sit in the middle of the phase, in the middle of the life cycle. So it sits in the design, implementation, or coding and testing. And we have maybe small portion of operation and deployment, because we have right now we have DevOps, yeah, development and operation combined. So you have a CI/CD pipeline. So actually you implement your software and you push your code, and then the pipeline will check out and doing integration test. And sometimes you can deploy directly to the production using this pipeline. So we have small parts of operation and deployment here. And for the design also, we still have a big part of design, because we are doing the detailed design. But mainly it's implementation and testing. Yeah. So these are the scope of construction from the perspective of waterfall model. But as you may know that the waterfall model follows linear and sequential fashion. And linear and sequential fashion is hard to follow, yeah, because having perfect output from each steps, yeah, having perfect output from each step, for example, the output from requirement 100% correct, 100% validated and verified, it's difficult, yeah. So maybe you won't move to the next phase because you have to make it perfect. Yeah, but perfection is kind of enemy when doing this kind of project. So there is no perfect requirement, and then you do the analysis. You have pre-analysis to go to the design. This one give you 100% perfect analysis, and for also the design. So this kind of model is difficult to follow. So usually we use the other model, the other software development lifecycle model, which is the iterative model. In this iterative model, we have the initial planning are done outside the software construction, but we expand the activities inside the construction. We have more activities. Here we have requirement, but actually the big requirement actually have been done in the initial planning. Yeah. So you do the requirement, like for example, if you involve in a project, yeah, you involve in a project, and then the project had like the project would have like for example 50 use cases, yeah, 50 use cases, but for the first iteration you only implement 10 use cases as a minimum viable product for the version 1, and then you do the requirement for only 10 use cases, yeah. 10 use cases, doing the analysis design, doing the implementation, testing, evaluation, and then planning again to move to the next iteration until you have a complete product. Yeah. So the phase from planning, requirement, analysis, design, implementation, testing, evaluation is we include those activities inside one construction phase. So we expand the scope of construction in the iterative model that includes all of the phases, all of the activities needed to do a working to produce a working software. Yeah. Yeah. So here, so by definition, you have to make sure that the definition in the iterative model is slightly different. Yes, it's slightly different when we see it from the linear model or waterfall model. Next, so moving on to the next topic is about the importance of software construction. Yeah, so it's the only phase that produce something, which is software. Yeah, the end products that are needed by clients and end users. So the process, yeah, the software construction process will determine the software quality. We will discuss it later, and then we also have to do some activities to minimize complexity in this phase, yeah, and we have to make sure that our software, our working software, can anticipate change by doing some like standards, following some design principles, following some patterns in this phase, and then we have to make sure that we construct for verification, meaning that you have to make sure that your working software, yeah, can be tested, can be verified, yeah, can be verified by providing unit tests, by doing integration tests, by doing acceptance tests, yeah. So you have to make sure that your code, your component, your design are testable, and then you can also make your components reusable in this software construction phase. And then this is the place which we can define construction standards. Yeah, standards is important here. So what are the standards? We'll talk later in the next part. Okay, so what to achieve in software construction? So of course, in software requirement we have two types of software requirement. The first is functional requirement, which is meaning the functional requirement is the functions or the features of your software, yeah, the features of your software. But we have another dimension that we call it, maybe you know, you identify this as a non-functional requirement, but here we call it software quality attributes, yeah, software quality attributes. For example, we have reliability, yeah, performance, testability, usability, security, availability, reusability, and maintainability. These are some of the software quality attributes. So this functional requirement and software quality attribute, these two are equally important. Yeah, they are equally important. Why? Because if you only focus on one aspect, for example, you only focus on functionality, you will deliver a software, yeah, that meets the user needs, the user requirement, but cannot be used. Yeah, for example, your client asks you to build e-commerce software. Yeah, the features are catalog, for example, shopping chart, shipping, payment. They have 4 wish lists, yeah, 4 main features, and you have implemented it all. You have implemented them all, and you you deploy the software. Yeah, you deploy the software and run it. Okay, one user, your software can still perform well, and then 2 users, 10 users, 100 users, 1000 users, still okay. But when the users increases to for example 100,000, yeah, or 1,000,000, then your software starts showing degradation signs or stop working. Yeah, so that's a problem. Yeah, so you have scalability issues, and you have also performance issues. Yeah, your software can deliver the features but cannot perform it well. Yeah, so that is what is happening if you only focus on functionality without considering software quality attributes. But if you only focus on software quality attributes and you ignore the functionality, yeah, the software has a very good sophisticated software architecture, but it doesn't meet the user needs. Like your user wants you to build a car, but you deliver them a motorcycle. Like you don't meet the user's expectation. So by considering those two examples, so we can conclude that we need to focus on these two aspects, the functionality and also the quality attributes. Yeah. Okay. And so let's talk about the quality attributes. Yeah. From the perspective of software construction phase. So will software construction phase affect these software quality attributes directly? For example, reliability. Yeah, reliability meaning that your software can perform consistently without any errors. Yeah, so if you are using a software and the software keeps giving you error messages, yeah, error messages or 500 error code, yeah, 503 or 400, that's the meaning of the low reliability. If you use a software and then the response time is too long, then the performance, yeah, it's so it has to be a performance quality attributes, And as a developer, yeah, maybe you join a new company, and the company has already existing software, and then you want to test your software, and it's difficult to test because it's not testable. Maybe they put all of the code inside one giant controller, and you have to test it. It's impossible, yeah, to create a unit test for that. So the testability is low. And usability, you already have a full functional software, but it's difficult to operate the UI. The UX is not good, so usability here is affected, yeah, by the result of your software construction phase, for example. And security. The internal data is not protected, yeah, by enough security measures. For example, you have a fully working software, yeah, it's already in operation, but someone came, attack your system, and delete all the data. So it makes the software practically unusable, even though you already implement all the functionalities, yeah. Availability, meaning that what if the hardware, the infrastructure is, for example, we have one only hardware, yeah, one server, and the server is down. So what happened? You have to make sure that you have to properly identify the needs for the infrastructure, yeah, in this availability. Reusability is how easy you to use the existing components, and maintainability is how easy you to maintain the software. Yeah, if you have to introduce feature change or feature addition, you can guarantee that I can deliver it within a specific time frame. Yeah. So these are the software quality attributes, and okay, you can discuss with your peers here. So can we achieve these quality attributes directly from completing the software construction phase? Yeah, discuss them one by one. I want you to discuss with your friends, with your peers here. Do you think, yeah, these quality attributes that I have mentioned before, this one, reliability, for example, does this quality attribute, yeah, affected by the software construction phase? What kind of activities in software construction phase that will affect the reliability quality attributes? So, is this quality attribute affected or not? Directly or less affected, yeah? More affected or less affected? There is no right or wrong answer here. It's just your opinion. Okay, maybe I don't know how many. Ini ada berapa ya? 1, 2, 3, 9. Okay, it's only 8. Yeah, so you discuss reliability, yeah, first row, and then performance, testability, usability, yeah, second row, and then security, third row, security ya mas, security, terus yang mbak-mbak ini berlima, 2 sama 3 belakangnya, availability, terus availability, terus ini reusability ya mas, belakangnya reusability, terus 1 baris belakangnya maintainability, terus masnya sama mbaknya itu sama sana, terakhir itu baris terakhir itu 1 lagi yang belum masuk di sini, performance, ya. So you discuss performance quality attributes. Cukup ya? Okay, I'll give you 5 minutes to discuss and write down a note ya, and then choose one representative to explain. Boleh pakai bahasa Indonesia, nggak harus bahasa Inggris. Kenapa? Iya, apakah software construction itu mempengaruhi? Jadi misalnya aktivitas apa di software construction yang bisa mempengaruhi performance? Langsung apa nggak langsung? Kalau langsung gimana? Kalau nggak langsung ya gimana? Ya. Iya. Singkat aja, software construction termasuk coding ya? Iya. Dan testing. Iya. Okay, time's up. Starting from the front row, who will be the speaker? Tadi apa? Reliability ya? Boleh. Yang keras tapi ya, biar semuanya kedengaran. Dari sini aja. Ya.
Jadi
yang lainnya dengarkan ya.
Ya, jadi kami kami mendiskusikan tentang seberapa berpengaruh reliability dalam software construction. Pertama-tama, reliability sendiri adalah tingkat konsistensi perangkat lunak dalam menjalankan fungsinya tanpa kegagalan pada kondisi dan waktu tertentu. Fokus utamanya adalah membangun sistem yang tahan banting, mampu menangani kesalahan dan cepat pulih dari gangguan dari gangguan. Contoh reliability sendiri adalah aplikasi perbankan yang tetap akurat memproses transaksi meski jaringan buruk, memiliki cadangan server otomatis saat gangguan, serta sistem error handling yang mencegah aplikasi keluar paksa. Aspek reliability secara langsung mendikte metode software construction. Aspek reliability sendiri secara langsung mendikte metode software construction melalui penerapan defensive programming, validasi ketat, serta penanganan error yang adaptif. Hal ini memaksa pengembang membangun struktur modular yang terisolasi agar kegagalan satu fungsi tidak meruntuhkan seluruh sistem. Intinya adalah kegagalan salah satu fungsi itu tidak meruntuhkan semua sistem, sehingga menjamin stabilitas aplikasi dalam berbagai kondisi yang ekstrim.
Ya, terima kasih ChatGPT. Harusnya kamu jelasin sendiri lah, jangan dibaca, nggak enak dengernya. Oke, ya itu udah benar ya. Jadi so the activities in software construction that will affect directly to reliability. Why? Because if you don't properly do defensive programming, the defensive programming means that implementing a proper exception handling in your code, yeah, validating the input requests, yeah. So that's our routine in the software construction that must be performed. So you can get a good reliability from the software construction phase. Okay, next. Apa? Performance-nya ada 2 ya. Apa? Kalian apa tadi? Performance, berarti ada double ya, 2 ya. Yes, gak apa-apa. Oke, silakan.
But if the code isn't really good, it will affect the performance because let's say the example is we want to build an application that needs a search algorithm, and we will apply the search algorithm in our code. So and there are many ways to implement the search algorithm, and there are few algorithms that is better than the others. So when we implement the better algorithm in our code, of course, the performance will be better.
Yeah, thank you. So the choice of data structure and algorithms, yeah. So actually making, considering the data structures and algorithms is a part of software construction phase, not the software design or analysis phase, yeah, because it's too detailed, yeah. It's a low level choice, not high level choice. So who actually makes the decision? It's the developer, yeah. So software architect won't ask you to use the linked list here, array here. It's too complicated for him. So you as a developer will make that choices to determine, I will use this data structure, I will use this algorithms, yeah. So that's why the software construction phase will affect directly performance. Yeah. So I have an experience. I consulted to private companies who had a problem in their software performance, and after analyzing the code, I found out that they implement a database transaction. Database transaction should be atomic and should be fast, because if it's not fast, then the performance will be degraded. And the developer actually put the API call inside the database transaction. So that's not a wise decision, because during the database transaction, which is atomic, you call external API. It will slow. It will make your system much slower. Yeah. So that's the example. The developer made mistakes during the software construction, then it will affect directly to the performance quality attributes. Okay, next. Yang row 2, second row. Apa yang mana? Yang usability. Okay.
So usability is not directly affected in the software construction phase because apparently usability is often misunderstood that it is just for the aesthetic of the user interface or example, when actually it is about the design of for example the well, we might actually produce a well-constructed software, but it will surely fail to meet the user needs. So usability is actually should be done in the earliest stage.
Phase.
So it's before the construction
Hmm.
of the software construction phase.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. So for usability, yeah, during the analysis and design, yeah, right now we have UI and UX design phase, UI and UX developer that will actually design the flow of the application, yeah, and the experience of the application. So that will help a lot. And so yeah, I agree that software construction will not directly affected to the usability because mainly the process of realistic design will be done before the construction. But there are some activities that might affect usability during software construction phase. For example, one thing that many developers forget is state management in UI. For example, you open a page that contains, for example, 100 line, 100 records in one table, and then you scroll through the table and up until the record 81, and then you open the record 81, moving to another page. You work on the record 81, and then you go back, and suddenly you went back to the first record, and you have to scroll up again until the record 81 to continue your previous work. So those state management needs to be implemented by developers, and developers forgot to perform that. Yeah, and we can actually countermeasure it by QA. They should test by means of user acceptance test, try the application, and then provide feedback to the developer. Yeah, so this kind of user interaction is difficult. You have to fix it. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Next, yang mana?
Testability, Pak.
Testability, oke. Okay.
Jadi untuk testability itu bisa dicapai dalam menyelesaikan construction phase itu karena testability itu bisa tercapai ketika melakukan desain software, karena dari fase desain itu kita bisa menentukan apakah software kita itu nanti bagaimana dependensinya, bagaimana coupling di antara modulnya, modularity dari softwarenya, sehingga itu bisa lebih memudahkan kita dalam membuat unit testing dan melakukan testing ke aplikasinya nanti.
Yes, yeah, correct. Yeah. So testability is directly affected by software construction phase. Yeah, if you do detailed design. Yeah. So detailed design meaning making sure that the coupling between modules or software components is loosely coupled. It will make you or implementing dependency injection patterns. Yeah, it will increase the testability. Yeah, correct. Next, belakangnya apa? Security, oke. Okay. Agak keras, Mas. Agak keras.
Seringkali vulnerability dari sebuah pengguna itu ditemukan ketika ada bug-bug yang bisa dieksploitasi oleh orang-orang yang ingin, ya, entah itu pentester atau itu bad actor untuk merusak website kita.
Ya, oke. Ya, so directly affected ya. Directly apa ya, directly atau less affected? Yeah, directly affected. Jadi security is directly affected by software construction phase. Yeah, so you have to make sure that your developer has a habit to have a security mindset while doing coding. For example, the simplest one is SQL injection. Yeah, when the developer craft the SQL query, SQL statements, we have to make sure that they don't use string concatenation, because it will provide opportunity for SQL injection attack. We can instead use a parameterized query. Yeah, that's one of the example, or following the OAuth standard. So developer must have security in mind while doing the code. Yeah. So it will affect directly to security. Selanjutnya apa? Availability, okay. Less directly affected, yeah, okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so yeah, it's less affected, yeah, or indirectly affected by the software construction phase, because to implement availability, actually we need to think earlier, we need to plan earlier in the software architectural design phase, where we need to measure the, for example, the expected requests, the expected end users, how many users will use this software, and we need to plan and how many servers do you have, how many servers you have, and which one will be the active servers, which one will be the backup. Yeah, so we need to think that earlier. So I think software construction phase will have insignificant portion in this software quality attributes for availability. Okay, next yang sebelah sana apa? Reusability, availability, oke. Availability juga ya? Ya udah, oke, gugur. Sama ya? Yang belakangnya? Apa? Oke, maintainability. Yang keras. Siapa yang ngomong? Oke, sama ya opininya ya. Oke. Yang maintainability ya. Yang reusability siapa? Ada. Yang maintainability siapa? Tim yang mana? Berarti ada yang kelewatan ya. Yang reusability belum ya. Yang belakang apa? Oh, yang belakang performance. Ya udahlah, oke. Reusability directly affected ya. Jadi silakan yang maintainability. So the conclusion is for maintainability. Oh, okay. So think maintainability as the end result is maintainability is a software quality attribute, internal quality attributes that will affect the developers. Yeah, the developers. So if you have bad practices when writing source code, for example, you don't care proper naming, proper naming of the class name, of the method's name. You don't care about the name of the variables, the class, the methods, or you don't care about the coupling. You just connect everything to everything without thinking the implications. That will lower the quality of your software, and it will harm your maintainability attributes, quality attributes. So I think activities in software construction phase that are focused on coding, debugging, and unit testing will directly affect it much for this maintainability. Because if you have a bad practices, your developer don't care about the quality of code, it will result in maintainability. Correct that some part of design is done in software design phase, but software design phase is only designing, I think, the high level interaction of the components. Some part of software design will affect the maintainability also, but software construction, I think, is the main source of maintainability. Main source of activities that affects maintainability. Oke, thank you. Yang belakang apa tadi? Performance, oke, di pendapat kalian. Oke, thank you. Sama ya tadi ya pendapatnya. Oke, let's continue. Thank you for the opinion. Let's move on to the next. Actually, I already provide the discussion here. So the quality attributes directly affected by construction. Here we have maintainability, and we have testability, reliability, performance efficiency, security, and reusability. So for maintainability, strongly influenced by code readability, clean code practices, modular implementation, naming convention, and refactoring. So if you don't follow these activities, you may get software that is hard to maintain. It's difficult to maintain. And for testability, is how easy the software can be tested. It will be affected by is your team implemented dependency injection, or modular design, separation of concern, and unit test coverage. It will affect directly your working software in terms of testability. Next is reliability. The probability that software performs correctly without failure, affected by error handling management. You have to make sure that your developer properly implement error handling management, doing defensive programming, validate the input, and doing exception management. For performance, affected by algorithm selection, data structures, memory management, database query optimization. For security, affected by input validation, secure coding practices, proper authentication handling, and protection against injection attacks. So these are activities that will affect the end result or the working software in terms of security. For reusability, this one we haven't discussed the degree to which software components can be reused. So maybe you want to use some part of your software in other software, so you have to make sure that your design is modular. So affected by modular code, you have clear interfaces between components. and then you have a low coupling and high cohesion design in your software. And the other quality attributes that are less directly affected by construction, so we have some attributes here. Scalability, scalability must be taught earlier in the before software construction phase. We can think this, we can plan for our software for scalability in software architecture phase, for example, and for availability also, because we need to allocate software to hardware. We need to allocate software to hardware to map software to hardware. This can be done prior to software construction. And for interoperability must be designed earlier also. And for deployability also, we must be designed before the software construction. So these are like high-level decisions, high-level architectural decision, important decision that hard to change later, because you need to make a decision this earlier before the software construction, and changing this decision later while doing software construction or after software construction will cost you time and money, because you have to do rework. You have to change everything. It's just like you have imagine you had built a 10-story building, and then suddenly you change your mind, I want 5-story building, then you have to cut some of your building, change the architecture. So it's a hard to change decision, and it will be costly to actually implement the change. Next is the prerequisites of software construction. So there are steps that you have to complete before the software construction. So requirement, of course, you have to have defined the requirement. You already know what needs to be built. What are the requirements before software construction starts. If you don't have any requirement before software construction start, then your developer they will be confused. What are we going to make in this phase, in this process? There's no definition, there's no requirement, so you have to make sure that requirements are completed before software construction. And next is the architecture also. The high-level architecture must be defined before the software construction phase, and the design, the high-level design, should also be completed before the software construction. The purpose is to reduce ambiguity and rework, because if you defer this later, defer these 3 activities later, you have possibilities of rework the code, the working software, and it will cost you much in terms of money and time. So why the prerequisites are important? So here I put data from research. This is an actual research that if you introduce bug, in requirement phase, in architecture phase, in construction phase, but you detect it later, the cost will increase exponentially. So, for example, if you introduce bug in requirement, you made mistake, you made mistake in requirement phase, but you found the mistake, you detected the mistake in requirement phase, the cost is only 1 point. But if you detect it later after post-release, meaning that the software is working, running, in operational, the cost is 10 to 100. And it will be painful. It will be painful to correct this, because you have to think in operational, like what about that user, this user, maybe you need to do downtime, to update your system, to patch your system. So the cost is very high here. So, and I think the rest is also the same for the architecture and construction. the trend is moving up here. So from this data, you have to make sure that you detect your specification. Yeah, you have to detect potential defects early in the phase. Yeah, early in the life cycle here. Okay, so time introduced and time detected. Okay, so do we have to apply same activities for all kind of projects? Yeah, so that is the question. Yeah. So now, do we have to apply same software construction activities for all types of all kinds of project? So here we have 3 kinds of project. We have 3 types of project. First is business system. I think we built many of this kind of system, business system, and we have mission critical system, and we have embedded life critical system. We have a word life here, meaning that if your software fails to perform correctly, it will cost you a life. Yeah. For example, avionics software, you program for the aircraft, and then the aircraft, you introduce bug to the aircraft, and then the aircraft suddenly crashed. That's your responsibility. Yeah. And I think the consequences is criminal. Yeah, categorized as criminal. So we have to make sure that we put more formal method in this kind of categories in our software construction phase, and less informal to this kind of system. So in business system, we can do a less informal specification or less informal activities. Yeah. So the typical apps in business systems, for example, intranet site, inventory management, games, management information system. So if you build an information system, it will be included in this category. For example, if you build a payroll system, payroll means software to manage payment, like a incentive, yeah, for the employee, award for the employee. So this is a payroll system. And then for mission critical, for example, embedded software. Embedded software is a software that is programmed directly into the appliance, like AC, TV, this one, smart TV, this is a embedded software. Games, internet site, package software, software tools, and web services. For embedded life critical, we have avionics software, embedded software, medical device. We actually have a story of maybe if you read Wikipedia, open Wikipedia, you try to Google like bugs, yeah. Known bugs in history, like for medical device is radiation device. Because of the error in the software, the radiation actually is higher than the allowed dose, and then it actually affects the patients. The patients got more radiation than it should be. So we have to be careful, yeah, in this kind of embedded life critical system. Operating system also embedded life critical system, and the package software. Okay, next. The life cycle model. So for less informal category, we can use agile development and evolutionary prototyping, because we can easily throw our prototype and build new one. Yeah, and if we have incorrect assumption, we have bugs in our requirement or our implementation, we can easily roll out fixes, yeah, bug fixes. No problem in business systems, but in embedded life critical system, you have to make sure you have a stage delivery, evolutionary delivery, by making sure that each delivery have been verified, have been validated, yeah. So these are the difference, yeah, for informal and less informal categories or kinds of project. For planning and management, here we can see that for embedded life critical, we need to do extensive upfront planning. So the planning phase takes a longer time, and the test planning also takes a longer time. The QA planning takes a longer time. But for business system is informal change control, as needed test and QA planning, much less informal. Yeah, much less informal. Next, for requirement, yeah, for business system you can produce only informal requirement specs, but for embedded life critical you have to develop formal requirement specs. And usually for formal requirement, sometimes in embedded life critical system, it's not sometimes, I think always we have to use mathematical notation. Maybe already studied it, formal method sudah belajar ya? Oh belum, angkatan atasnya ya. Formal method ya, there is a specific language to express it. It's a Z language. You can use it as a formal requirement specs, and we have to do formal requirement inspections. Even before we actually build the software, we have to make sure that the requirement is correct. Yeah. For the design, we can combine the design and coding all together in business systems, but for the embedded life critical, we have to separate the architectural design, and we have to inspect the result of the architectural design, and the formal detailed design is also separated in its own activities, and we have to inspect also the result. Yeah, but for mission critical, we can make it much less informal, and business system is lesser. I think the least informal way. Yeah, we combine the design and coding all together. And then for the construction, I think this one for the scheme is quite similar. Yeah, you can employ pair programming or individual coding for each project. Yeah, pair programming means that you have one developer actually writing the code, and you have another developer sitting next to the writing developer, yeah, and watch and maybe spot some errors, some bugs, yeah, some typos, yeah, and correct concepts that are being written by the other programmer. So for these three, we have same pair programming or individual coding scheme, but for embedded life, we need to do a formal code inspection after we completed the code. We need to do formal code inspections here. For testing, yeah. So for business system, maybe we don't have a separate testing group, QA group. It's still acceptable, but for embedded life critical system, we need to have a separate testing group, and it should be test first development. So we make sure that our system can be tested properly, yeah, and we have formal deployment procedure for deployment. So you can see the patterns here, yeah, like the category for embedded life is is the most formal, and the business system is the least informal. Okay, so now what are things to do on the software construction phase? So for the coding activities, yeah, you have to design how much design portion on the beginning and design portion on the coding phase, meaning that the design in the software design phase, yeah, the first. And then you have to develop coding convention. But right now, if you choose one programming language or a framework, a specific framework, they already have coding convention. So I suggest you just use that coding convention, so you don't have to invent new coding convention, yeah. So I strongly recommend you just use, for example, if you use Go, we have idiomatic Go, for example. That is the coding convention. And then you have to define architecture, how to handle the error, how to handle the security properly, how to make sure that the performance, like we have discussed before, the algorithm, the data structures, we discussed this in software construction phase. And next is we have to define the tech stack, the technology stacks, the technology and the platforms. Don't let developers use their own, decide on their own what the technology and the platforms, because they will end up with different stacks, different stacks and that are familiar to each developer. For teamwork, you have to define code ownership. You have to make sure that the repository, for example, is managed by only one team, not multiple teams. Except that if you use right now, there is a popular approach. Maybe before we put one specific project, one specific module in one repository. We call it poly repository, polyrepo. But right now, because of we need to use AI to assist our activities, we move to mono repository, monorepo, where we put all of our code. For example, we have one project, and in this project we have 3 teams, and each team has its own project, has its own module, and all of the modules are put inside one repository. So this is called monorepo, and the AI can actually read all of the source code, and they can make sense, sensing the context. They can have the clear context of your project and can help you better. So you have to design the code ownership, the repository also, and then define the integration procedure, code check-in procedure. Like you as a developer, you are not allowed to commit in the master branch, for example, because master branch is only used for production. It will be built by the CI/CD pipeline, and it will be deployed directly to the working server, the operations server. But you as a developer can only commit to the feature branch, for example, and then the QA will move it to the development branch, and maybe the one who has higher authority will move it to combine it to the master branch to deploy. So the procedure, you have to define this procedure, and then you have to define also how programmer works, like in pair or individual, or in combination. Next is quality assurance. So do programmers create test cases before writing code or after writing code? If before writing code, then we need to employ test-driven development, meaning creating unit tests first and then implement the actual code. So create unit tests first and then implement the actual code. Or creating the actual code and then create the unit test. It's up to you to make that decision. And then should programmers check their code using debugger before checking it? Right now we can be in CI/CD, if we push our code into the repository, and then the pipeline will check out your code, and then they try to integrate and to test your code. I think right now the DevOps practices help you to do this properly. And then next is, should programmers perform integration testing before checking in their code? It's up to you. If you already have a separate QA, a quality assurance team, then the quality assurance teams can handle this integration testing. And then should programmers review other programmers' code? It's also you need to define this. So every programmer should review each other code, to make sure that we can spot defects earlier, Yeah, so we can spot defects earlier in our code. AI can also help you to review our code, yeah, right now. Development tools, yeah, so you have to define the version control system using Git or SVN, yeah, the centralized one or the distributed one, and then choose the programming language, the version, the compiler version, and then choose the framework. And if there is a non-standard features of language, is it allowed to use those features or not? You have to define it. And then you have to identify the tools like IDE, editor, refactoring tools, debugger, test framework, syntax checker. Others is monitoring, like observability tools, yeah, like Sentry tools to manage, to capture errors. Yeah, so you have to make sure that you provide this in your team, for your team. Next is, this is the modern construction tech stack. First is you have to provide project management platforms here for communication and collaboration tools. For example, I think the most famous one is Jira, Jira management tools, yeah, Jira. And for communication or collaboration, maybe we can use Slack or Teams. Or I don't know if kalau mahasiswa tuh biasanya pakai apa? Discord, ya, Discord. Terus, and then document and data management systems. And for backend technologies and framework, you have to choose the programming languages, framework, database, API architecture integration. For front end, also you have to define web application frameworks and mobile development. Yeah. And right now, because of due to the rise of AI, yeah, so the use of AI tools, yeah, to assist developer during software construction, actually in writing, analyzing, and refactoring, yeah, improving your code, AI can support developers in code completion, yeah, while doing programming. They will suggest you the completion of your code, and it can also generate code for you. Yeah, generating function classes or APIs, and it can also detect bugs. Yeah, detect bugs, predicting defects. Yeah, identifying potential errors and vulnerabilities, and it can also automatically create unit tests for you. Yeah, and I think it's getting better. I tried, creating unit tests is, it's like extra work for developers, and AI can help you to reduce those burdens to create unit tests. And code refactoring, you can refactor your code structure. You can get suggestions. Yeah, for example, if your code is not you tend to put your code in one giant controller, and you ask AI, please break down this into infrastructure, to repository, to domain layer, and to application layer. They will try to extract, yeah, the class and provide the components that has its own responsibility, specific responsibility. So they can help you, the AI can help you to do code refactoring also. And right now we have new technologies that you can employ, like the name is Model Context Protocol, MCP. This is actually a protocol, meaning that you can make your own MCP server, your own MCP client. Yeah, by using this standardized protocol, you can create a connection between the AI agents and your resource. Here, for example, you have PostgreSQL resource, SQLite resource, Google Drive resource. You have your Git repository. You have your productivity tools like Slack, Google Maps. and you have your AI chatbots like Claude or ChatGPT. You have your IDE, and you have other AI application. Then this protocol, this connection will allow the AI agents to directly connect and access your resources. So you provide better visibility for the AI. You provide better visibility for the AI to access your project. So for example, one activities, you have to create a synthetic data in your database. Before we have AI assisted tools, you have to create the data manually, opening your database, creating the data manually. But using this protocol, you can allow your AI agents to directly access your database and create those synthetic records in your database. So you will be it will improve your productivity. So I suggest you to open this link, modelcontextprotocol.id, and learn about it. And also, for example, you as a front-end developers, you want to create a UI using component library, UI component library. You can connect your AI agent to those component library registries, and you ask your AI agent to create a page, using the component library, and it will use those component library and create it for you directly. Okay, so these are new technologies, current and trends in software construction that can help you and increase your productivity. Okay, so I'm at the end of my presentation. So this is the summary for today's presentation. First is construction. Construction is where software is built. It involves coding, debugging, testing, and integration. And it requires standards, tools, and discipline. And then modern development increasingly use automation and AI. Yes. These are the key takeaways for today's presentations. Any questions? Ada pertanyaan? Aman. Kalau nggak ada, silakan dikerjakan di post test. We have one post test in my ITS classroom. Di my test classroom ada post test. "25 questions. Answer the questions, and after you done with the post test, you can leave the class." Okay. Sekalian saya tutup ya. So this is the end of today's class. I don't have weekly assignment. I just have the post test assignment. Please do the assignment. So I think that's all. Good afternoon. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.